Hi, I'm making this video to reflect on making my first $132,000 online. While today I easily hit six figures on a good month, this didn't always used to be the case. I remember a few years back when I was reading the 4 hours work week under a palm tree in Greece, it all seemed so out of reach for me. So looking back, I wanted to reflect on the 6 key lessons that have got me to where I am today, in hopes of hopefully inspiring some of you as well. So first off, I wanted to talk about the power of delegation from day one. When starting out, it's very frequent to want to do everything on your own. Or even if you've been at it a while, you might likely find yourself still doing all the nitty-gritty details, whether it's doing the writing, the marketing, and even like all the small manual stuff in Google Sheets that you think no one else can do as good as you, or that it would be very difficult for anyone else to ever be able to learn how to do. But let me tell you, you're wrong. And the thing is that I used to think the same, but really there is so much to be said about, the amount of hours that we all have in a single day. And the truth is, I quickly started seeing the limitations of that, right? Because there was so much things I needed to do, and the more and more my business grew, the more I started to see that there wasn't possibly any way that I was going to get around to it all. Honestly, I think this was one of the biggest things that have got me to where I am now, is starting to bring on board help from very early on. So here is what I recommend. First off, figure out how you want something to be done, as in what the process is like, what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And then the moment you figure it out, find someone else to do it so that you can move on to the next thing that only you can do. And I know you're probably thinking, but where am I actually going to find the money to pay for all these people? And well, let me tell you, in today's day and age, when us all being so connected and online, there is more opportunities than ever to find great, hardworking, talented people all across the world. In fact, regions like the Philippines, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and even Kenya and other parts of Africa, there has never been so many people that are only waiting for people like you and me to give them a new challenge and something to learn and do. And it's far cheaper than you think as well. In fact, to illustrate this, when I was first starting out, I recently quit my 9-to-5 job, and just by doing Uber driving and food deliveries, I was able to afford 3 full-time team members on my first project. That's how affordable it can be. And now, if you're anything like me, you have some money saved up, you're maybe already have a job that's paying you well, you're going to be able to find plenty of help when starting out. And you can even hire people on a part-time basis or just on an hourly rate when you first get going. But even if you can't do that, there is still lots and lots of opportunities to go around. For instance, you can start bartering and offering your services to other people that can then help you do your thing. Or you can even get creative with finding people that are willing to do it for free just for the sake of learning. But honestly, if you have a bit of money to spare, or you can take some extra work on the side, or you already have enough funds, paying for it is probably the easiest way. Yeah, and when you're first starting out, Upwork is actually a really good place to start. You can easily find people for around $3 an hour that are really good at what they do and can easily help you with easy, more manual tasks. And when you get going properly, you may also want to start looking for more full-time help, which you can find around the $300 to $600 per month range on places like LinkedIn, Indeed, or even more country-specific platforms. And if you're curious about how I go about finding talented people for those rates and my exact process for hiring them, drop me a note in the comments and I will make another video about it. Next up, consistency. I can't tell you of how many friends I've seen fail on their journey by getting very excited about their new business or the project that they're working on, and then they want to do everything perfect. They have to get the latest gear, all of this hardware or tech or software, or get really boggled down in all this complexity and ideas of how they should be doing what they should be doing, and it just becomes so overwhelming that they never really end up getting anywhere. They get very excited, they work really hard for 3 months before finally throwing in the towel and giving up and finding some new other thing after 3 or 6 months. And looking back on my journey, I think as much as everything else, the biggest part of it was really sticking to it, and that grit and that showing up every single day, day in, day out, putting in the reps and getting to where I've now gotten now by figuring out all of the steps that I needed to along the way. So if you're anything like my friends who do projects for 3 to 6 months, if that, and then, when things get hard, they just give up and start some new other thing, well, this is a wake-up call. Stop doing that and start showing up every single day, one after another. And I promise you, you won't believe the amount of progress that you make over time. And to help you stay consistent, accountability is a really big thing. And my next tip is about exactly that, finding your people. While no one in your existing friend group might know anything about what you're up to if you're just starting out, there has never been a shortage of online communities, forums, subreddits, and even YouTube channels like this one, and all sorts of places where you can go and find people like yourself that are not only working through very similar goals, but are also facing many of the same challenges that you are. In fact, looking back, my first business, I got so much guidance from other amazing people in mastermind groups that I was part of. And that's going to sound like a very fancy word, but at the end of the day, what it really is just get together of like-minded people where you talk about things. There are many different formats, but the ones I've been part of have always been a little bit more free-flowing, and they can be 2, 3, 4, 5 people, or they can even be one-on-one. So if you see anyone online that you think you might connect with that is doing a similar thing as you are, I highly recommend you to reach out and start talking with them, start providing some value. Mention something that you think might be useful for them, maybe ask for their guidance on something, and build it from there organically, and over time suggest, hey, how about jumping on a call, and then take it from there. That's how I've started all of the masterminds, and most of them anyway that I'm part of today, and I can honestly tell you it's been one of the biggest things that have moved my business forward. Yeah, and on a related note, once you do start talking to those like-minded people, do not be afraid to be vulnerable, to be transparent, and to be authentic. I remember years back when I was first starting out, I felt like I needed to not be true to myself. I needed to act like I'd gotten to a certain place in my business, or like, everything was fine, like I had it all figured out, like, I had this whole thing going on, and it just wasn't always true. So if you're facing any challenges in your business, if there are things you don't quite know what to do with, or anything you're struggling with, that's exactly the point of those relationships and of that support network. So don't feel like you have to make yourself look better than you are. If there are any things you don't have figured out, don't be afraid to do so, because that's exactly what I did. And in my experience, people are always looking to help others like them. And if you share honestly about what you're going through and any challenges you might be facing, in my experience, a lot of people will want to help you out. A lot of people will want to guide you on your way. And there is nothing better that you can do. And as my final tip, while consistency and sticking to things is key, as we were discussing before, you also want to be adaptable and sort of evolve as you're going alongside your journey. Just as one example, with my first business, an online SEO-driven publication, the rules of the game changed significantly a couple of years back with the advent of AI and everyone suddenly being able to produce content so cheaply and in mass that Google essentially wiped out the whole industry as far as SEO-driven publishing and affiliate sites, so much so that many of the leading courses and people in the space left the space entirely. What I did is I saw an opportunity in that, insofar as that while sites like my own were not really a thing anymore on Google, a lot of other different types of businesses and brands were now leveraging SEO for their growth in a way that was still very much working despite the new rules of the game. And thinking about what had worked well for me on my website, which was getting it featured in all these high-profile publications like Forbes, the Washington Post, the New York Times. I'd worked out a whole strategy for that. If you're interested in that, let me know and I can share more about my process for doing that. I always had all of my friends ask me, hey, Carl, how do you do that? How did you get your website featured on Forbes? And then I figured out, wait, this is an excellent opportunity to adapt and to keep my business going. So that's exactly what I did. I shifted gears a little bit. I asked the team to join me on this new journey, and that's exactly what I did. And now my business organically ended up evolving from an online magazine into what is now a digital PR agency, where we're working with 50 plus clients in 15 different countries and getting them featured on hundreds of these world-class publications every month. So that's just a small example of what's possible if you adapt to what's happening around you. I hope this was useful. If you've enjoyed this video, check out my other one up here about what I learned wasting $40,000 to try and start my YouTube channel. Thanks and see you around.